Hello, and welcome back to more information about the 6 myths of grief. My name is Marla, and if you're interested, we are actually on number 4, which is time heals all wounds. Just as impractical as the other 5, but I'm going to explain a little bit about this to you. If you want to see the previous ones that I've talked about, you can go back on my channel, and they are all there. They have kind of the same header look on them, so it should be easy to identify. And if you would like to know more about these tools that I'm going to give you to help with grief and explain some of the myths about grief and the ways that we bypass it, they're all helpful things to know to help you get through difficult times. You can subscribe to my channel. So let's talk about this one. Time heals all wounds. First of all, it's just not true. And it's also not necessarily any worse than the other 5 myths, but the grief recovery method has been taught all around the world. So they have some pretty good research on what is common to most areas in the world. And this one seems to have the widest presence in across the world for the way people understand grief. And actually, you might hear it as grief just takes time or time heals all wounds, but it's simply not true. What happens in time is that the intensity of the loss might decrease, but it doesn't actually do anything to resolve the things that are sitting with you that are so difficult, that stay with you, that are unresolved. Time only passes. It doesn't actually do anything. And it's really what you do within that time, the actions that you take that affect the quality of your lives and whether you're able to move through it. This is not to imply that you will, let's say if you have a loved one that you've lost, it doesn't mean that you're going to forget about your loved one and just move on with your life and never think about them again. That's really not what healing is. But this false idea that time heals all wounds is based on a misunderstanding of the normal reactions to losses of all kinds. For example, in the early days of the death of a loved one, it's really normal and natural to have a sense of numbness. Your cognitive skills may be diminished. You won't be able to think straight. You can't focus. Many people find it really difficult to return to work. And it's just accompanied by this inability to concentrate or focus, and we kind of feel disconnected, and it just robs us of our physical energy and also our sort of emotional and spiritual light. It makes sense that we have a hard time paying attention to things in the early days of our loss, especially when it's someone or a big event that happens, or someone that we've lost that was really meaningful to us. And here's where this myth gets its foothold, because as time passes and we adapt to this idea, it's not that we're in denial that something's happened, but life continues to happen, and we're beginning to adapt to the painful reality that something has occurred, especially if it's the death of a loved one. So we do begin to be able to function a little better. And with that comes the illusion that time has actually done some healing for us. But really, all that's happened during that time is that the initial harsh pain has diminished, and we're adapting to the physical absence of that person. So adapting doesn't mean that we're emotionally complete with what happened. So, emotional completion has to do with working through the things that we wish had been different, better, or things that more like the unrealized hopes, dreams, and expectations that we had for a future with that person. Or it could be maybe the future we had in a profession that we had, or a place that we live that maybe was destroyed in a storm. That's a good example for many of us. So, we've all known people who have adapted to the reality of the loss, but they still carry a mountain of unfinished business about what happened. I often see this with parents that I've worked with who have sort of incorporated the loss in their life, but even many years later, because they haven't actually taken the steps they need to take to work through the loss, they're still mired in this very deep place of grief where they feel they can't engage life fully again. So, the key to full recovery is actually taking action steps. And I know this is kind of a silly example, but it actually, in a way, is a really good example. Take the idea of a flat tire, for instance. If you, let's say you arrive at your car in the parking lot and it has a flat tire, you're not going to just sit there and do nothing and hope that time is going to take care of it. Obviously, time is not going to take care of it. You're either going to rummage around in the trunk of your car and find your tire jack, or if you're like me, you're going to get on your cell phone and you're going to call somebody to come and help you. But you realize that something has to be done, that you can't just hope that it goes away. And there is a parallel to this with grief. And an emotionally broken heart is to have it resolved is remarkably similar to that situation. Um, you might even say, you've just, it can't go anywhere. The car can't go anywhere. You can't go anywhere in your life. You can't proceed with living. So the ability to fully function in life is limited, if it's not resolved. And it may not be there at all, not just limited. So that the key is action. The key to resolving it is action. You have to take action to complete the things that were left unfinished for you by the death or the divorce or any other kind of loss that you may have suffered. Otherwise you'll be just wandering through life without purpose or focus, and you remain trapped under the weight of that loss. This idea of talking about things that were unfinished, that does even happen with, say for instance, with children that we've lost. There are things that you wish you could have maybe resolved with a child, or things that you wish you had done differently. And heaven knows there are certainly things that projected into the future that were going to happen. So a lot of this has to do with taking steps of acceptance. That is one thing that is super helpful, and I may just do a session just on that alone. So I hope you found this helpful, and we will move on to myth number 5 the next time you see me. I hope you'll join me. Take care. Bye.